we also know that trade wars are not a one-way street. When Trump did this last, the Chinese retaliated, as the Canadians and the Mexicans say that they will retaliate. And what was the effect? Well, American taxpayers paid literally billions of dollars in welfare to American farmers because of all the lost markets as a result of retaliation from China. We face major expenses because of a policy that makes no sense. No one wins a trade war, and we stand to lose if we don't have these tariffs really narrowly targeted for some appropriate purpose, not to try to deal with immigration or fentanyl or any other whim that Donald Trump may have. And I would point out that as far as Canada is concerned, particularly, it accounts for less than 1% of all undocumented immigration coming into the United States. It accounts for 0.2% of all the fentanyl compared to what's coming in from our southern border. Some ask, well, why is it that he thinks tariff is such a beautiful word and so important to use? And the answer is because he can, because he does not have to consult Congress or anyone else in announcing tariffs that may be in direct conflict with the trade policies we adopted in the United States-Mexico-Canada trade agreement under his last administration, or our World Trade Organization obligations. But he thinks with just an imperial command, he can wreak this kind of havoc, and he is. So with that, I think we're both available for any questions you might have.
I'm sorry, you mentioned Elon Musk multiple times, and I want to know what your thoughts are on him and the agency of the USA getting shut down and staffers getting closed out of that.
People talk about Elon Musk being some sort of smart guy. He hasn't taken a look at the Constitution or how government works. He cannot just simply shut down entire government agencies that are dedicated to preventing diseases from spreading, not just in foreign countries, but from spreading here to the United States. One of the core missions that he's trying to shut down unconstitutionally is the emergence and further spread of HIV/AIDS, which, as we know, if it picks up in one country, pretty soon starts to accelerate here at home. So Elon Musk is a threat not only to people that receive Social Security and Medicare and Medicaid. He's not only a threat to USAID. Next, it sounds like Musk may be trying to shut down the Department of Education, which helps make sure we have teachers and books and a good environment for learning here in Austin. So having an unaccountable billionaire who thinks he knows something, but really is just trying to slash government programs so he can win tax breaks for himself, is extremely dangerous. And it's something that voters, whether they're Democratic, Independent, Republican, or what have you, none of them asked for. None of them wanted or asked for an unaccountable billionaire to start breaking the Constitution and breaking the law constantly in order to serve his own personal ends.
I just want to add that at the Agency for International Development, we have public servants that work for our government all over the world. They are handling disease outbreaks. They are providing water and other assistance in Ukraine. This is really the first major cut in assistance to Ukraine that this administration has implemented. They are covering all of the various continents, particularly where we are in competition, as in Africa, with the Chinese. And this is basically surrendering to the Chinese and to the Russians our international obligations. But more importantly, and as to what it says about what's happening here in the United States, the fact that someone who's unelected but designated as a dual president can go in and declare an agency created by federal law, funded by federal law, to declare it dead and tell all of its employees ride right down the path to dictatorship, which Donald Trump told us we would only have on day one.
Is it at the grocery store that Austinites are going to see the biggest impact? Can you kind of paint a picture of what that might look like for
I think that's the most immediate impact we will feel is at the grocery store if he does proceed in 30 days to building many small businesses that are involved in imports and exports that may feel at either end because they need something that's coming from one of our neighboring countries or our European allies if they're added, or because they have something to sell there. To take on our allies like this just makes absolutely no sense, particularly in the auto industry. Vehicles that are made here in America but get supplies from either Mexico or in some cases in Canada are going back and forth multiple times across the border, and now they get a 25% tax each time they go back and forth to fit something else on the vehicle. So I think car prices would be another big factor.
Yes.
Hi, Dale Stein from the States. You obviously today, the Trump administration delayed the Mexico tariffs after securing a deal from the Mexican president to send troops to the border. Can you talk about whether you think that? I mean, obviously Republicans are saying that's evidence that the tariff threat worked. Can you talk about what you think about that and whether you think that the threat is effective and if it can be helpful?
We all know that Donald Trump isn't serious about fixing our immigration system. He wants to keep the system as broken as possible so that he can just keep on campaigning about it and keep on complaining about it. There's nobody here in Austin that I've talked to that thinks raising the price of coffee and eggs is going to help fix the immigration system. That threatening to damage the Mexican economy and therefore also damaging the American economy is actually going to improve the immigration system. So I think this is another example of Donald Trump continuing to posture, continuing to act like he's going to do something good for everyday people, but at the end of the day, all he's doing is hurting working Americans while he tries to cover up the cost of the tax cut he wants to pay for his billionaire friends.
Whatever happens in the end of 30 days or 60 days, I can assure you it will be a Donald Trump victory, because he's kept his demands so vague. He will declare victory even if we have suffered great pain. And today or yesterday is the first time I've heard him say that we can expect pain in the short term. We don't know how short that is, but he's finally acknowledging that his policies are going to cost the very people that he said he was going to bring prices down for.
The last thing I'll mention is that our experience is that when you try to deal enormous economic damage to a low-income country, you usually cause migration. You don't reduce it.
Others?
Is there anything you guys are doing at the state level when it comes to trying to mitigate the situation? What do you guys think the next steps?
I'm not sure. Would you
Next,
repeat?
next steps to
Just to mitigate the situation, I think you're doing at the state level to help.
Do we expect anything from the state of Texas that would help? Very doubtful. But it is notable that Mexico is our largest trading partner, so we have a really big stake selling and buying from there. But I wouldn't expect much help. And it is going to be really important. Greg mentioned my service on the Ways and Means Committee. We're about to have a caucus in just a few minutes to talk about the tariff side of this, because our committee believes that international commerce benefits all of us if done with respect for the needs of our workforce here in America. And this is a total reversal of the position that Republicans have always taken. And it will be important whether any of them have the courage to speak up and question this very bad policy.
Yeah, I think I'll point out, our state leaders who claim to care about prices in Texas have been silent about this 25% increase in grocery prices, in auto part manufacturing prices. Those Texas right-wing officials who say that they know something about the economy and jobs have been silent about this policy that could badly damage Texas jobs. Oftentimes, Texas is also an exporter or a port of entry back and forth for products back and forth from Mexico. And so, again, you could craft smart tariff policies that create good jobs here in Texas. It's just that Donald Trump has a tariff policy that is about as dumb and about as corrupt as you can write one. So I think it's really important to drive home the point that the congressman mentioned, that when people ask me, how could it be that Trump wants to raise prices on tomatoes, on coffee, on lettuce, why would he do that? A, for his tax cut for billionaires, the kinds of billionaires like Elon Musk that are trying to run the show right now in Washington, D.C. The congressman and I aren't going to stand for it, and we will do everything at our disposal on the House floor to try to slow down these sorts of Republican proposals. Remember that the Republican majority is only by 1 or 2 votes at any given time. So if any of them think that they can take a vacation or take a day off, those of us in the Democratic delegation that want to protect people will show up and stop them. We will continue to support the lawsuits that claim so many of these actions are clearly unconstitutional. And we will make sure that those Republican members of Congress that are in districts that Joe Biden won, those vulnerable Republicans need to ask themselves if they want to stand by silently as Donald Trump raises prices on working class Americans, reduces taxes for billionaires, and pays no attention to the Constitution. It'll be up to those House Republicans to decide if they want to say something or if they want to go down with the ship.
And just mention one glimmer of hope in that regard is what we saw last week when this outrageous ruling came about that they would freeze all federal grants for cities, for all the community service organizations here. I know our phones were ringing off the wall from community service organizations that do so much good in our community, from city governments, from colleges. I'm sure yours were the same. Because of the pushback, because of the public outroar, they never admitted their mistake, but they did have to rescind the order. So we can do some things that are very important. Greg just outlined what they are. We need to do all of them, and we do need to do them frequently. But ultimately, what will turn this around and what will prevent some of these outrages from continuing to accelerate is that the public is engaged, that public sentiment causes them to have to change.
All right.
Thank you all.
I covered?
Yeah.
Thank you all.
Thank you all very much.
Yeah, thank you. Any of the stations need Spanish from me after this individual? Okay, cool. Well, is it better for me to do it here, or do you guys want to come together?
Stand right there.
Okay, I'll do this. I'll do Spanish really fast. Estamos aquí en contra. Yeah. Oh, I got you.
It's good. Participating.
No. We'll get to catch up about that later.
Have you set up over there? There we go.
Maybe some way I can.
You want me to just hold it?
Yeah, if it's fine.
There you go. I look like an Univision anchor now. I've been promoted from congressman.
Right there.
Estamos aquí en contra de la política de Donald Trump, que quiere subir los precios de la comida, subir los precios de los coches, subir los precios de las cosas básicas, de la canasta básica de nuestra comunidad. Está haciendo esto no porque quiere mejorar la situación, pero porque quiere darle un rebajo de los impuestos a los billonarios. Y quiere pagar para ese rebajo de impuestos para billonarios, subiéndote a ti el precio de los jitomates, subiéndote a ti el precio del café. Esto es horrible, no va a ayudar nada a la situación de tener este tipo de guerra de precios en contra de Canadá y en contra de México. Entonces no queremos apoyar su plan, queremos que la comunidad sepa que estamos luchando por ustedes y que queremos mantener los precios bajos para la canasta básica y que billonarios como Elon Musk deben no solamente pagar sus impuestos, pero deben de ser parte de este gobierno donde ellos siguen subiéndole el costo a la clase trabajadora.
En respuesta a esto, ¿cómo están trabajando ustedes para combatirlo?
Mira, muchas de estas acciones están en contra de la Constitución de los Estados Unidos. Entonces apoyamos demandas en las cortes para que la corte diga, ¿sabes de qué? Esto no es legal. Subir los precios cuando ya hay tratos con México y con Canadá. Igual Donald Trump está despidiendo a trabajadores de anticorrupción dentro del gobierno y eso también es en contra de nuestra Constitución. Entonces vamos a apoyar ese tipo de demandas. También los republicanos solamente tienen una mayoría de 1 o 2 votos en la Cámara Baja. Entonces nosotros, unidos, podemos parar muchas de estas propuestas porque si solamente 1 o 2 republicanos sienten suficiente presión para cambiar su voto, o 1 o 2 de ellos se van de vacación algún día, de los 435, podemos parar muchas de estas medidas y el público, si empieza a decir algo, decir, ¿sabes de qué? No apoyamos políticos que suben nuestros precios para ayudar corruptamente a sus amigos millonarios, creo que eso también puede parar este tipo de propuesta.
¿Cuál es el panorama para los latinos en estos próximos 6 meses?
Miran, el congresista Doggett y yo vamos a seguir luchando diciendo No debemos de subir los precios de la canasta básica, debemos en vez subir los sueldos. No debemos de bajar los impuestos para los billonarios, debemos de bajar los impuestos para los latinos y latinas trabajadoras. Entonces nosotros vamos a tener ese otro tipo de visión, porque los dos estamos aquí apoyando a todas las comunidades, incluso la comunidad hispana y comunidad latina.
La gente sigue teniendo miedo en las calles. ¿Qué les puede decir?
Donald Trump sí está iniciando más y más redadas por todos los Estados Unidos. Y el congresista Doggett y yo apoyamos los derechos de todo el mundo, documentados o indocumentados. Entonces es muy importante conocer tus derechos. Saber que no tienes que contestar preguntas sobre su estatus migratorio. Saber que tienes el derecho a un abogado. Entonces debes de conocer tus derechos. Conocer organizaciones que apoyan a la comunidad inmigrante, y nosotros vamos a intentar luchar en contra de más y más fondos yendo para terror de la comunidad latina. Necesitamos esos fondos para apoyar a los trabajadores, para bajar los precios y para la seguridad de todos, porque sabemos que los criminales, hay más chance que los criminales no sean inmigrantes que sean inmigrantes. Entonces queremos la seguridad de todos, inmigrante o no, y los derechos, apoyar los derechos de todos, inmigrante o no. Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you for being the anchor.
Thank you, of course. Yeah.
See you on the plane.
See you on the plane.
This is good.
Well, I think I'm on your. I'm missing you because you're on the first plane, right?
Oh, yeah.